Finally, Achebe ends his essay by sending a small message to all the African writers. Towards the end of the essay, he criticizes the native writers. All the time, European writers cannot be slammed deplorable. He says that even native writers have not done anything to uplift the condition of Africa. People have always criticized uh, literature that has been very colonially biased in the favor of African. For example, this includes Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, or in India, A Passage to India by E.M. Foster. Literature like this, like these, favor the Europeans more than the people who are colonized, the people who the writers are writing about. So it was not their responsibility to promote our country. We have our own writers, we have our own literature, we have our own languages, and it was the duty of our local, of our native writers to promote African or Indian societal development. Basically, it was their duty. It was not the duty of these foreign powers, these foreign colonizers. It was the duty of our local and native writers. He says that even native writers have not done anything to uplift the conditions of African literature, because they were too focused on the structures and the standards set by the Europeans to focus on their own nativity, on the plight of the people, on the wars that we people were suffering from. Like I said, that Africans did not get freedom so easily, as easily as Indians got freedom quite easily. But the Biafran War, the Nigerian struggle, the Kenyan struggle, it was very difficult, bloody, violent, with with lots of casualty, loss of property, and complete disintegration of politics, economy, and society itself in the country. So it was the duty of African writers to uplift from such horrendous and tumultuous conditions. It was not the duty of Africans. They were here for economic gain. They were in Africa for economic gain. They got that gain. They got that their riches, and they exploited the resources, and they exploited the people. And after they have been challenged by the natives, they left, and they left it in pieces. So the responsibility of African writers was to rebuild the society, to encourage other people to rebuild the society. But they did not do that because they were too busy mimicking the steps of European writers. They are not responsible for their own people. They shed all the responsibility for African people, the African writers. They shed all the responsibility. He embodies the idea and says that only through the earnestness or eager enough is most important to uplift the condition of African literature. The most important factor for the most important feeling for an African writer to promote African development is to have the can do, eager enough, or earnest attitude. First, you have to feel it very deeply, then only you can adopt it, or then only you can promote it or propose it in your literature. Only then African literature will get the prestigious status, otherwise they will be dominated again and again by Eurocentric powers. For the domination of Europeans, Achebe calls seduction. He calls the domination by European in literary spheres, he calls it seduction, and this seduction is very powerful. Native writer immediately become attracted to that seduction and start following in those footsteps. So this should be overcome by writers, according to Achebe. The native poets and critics are equally responsible for this seduction, because they never attempt to break this barricade of this European canon, rather than enjoy to be in appendage of it. Colonial policy and their criticism against Africa has been seductive. That is, their domination itself is seduction. Achebe criticizes many poets and critics of Africa who have fallen for this criticism. Chinua Achebe calls the native writers to uplift the condition of African literature with earnestness and reminds them of their duty towards Africa. To educate masses, inculcate self confidence in people and the country, and reject the denigration and self abusement integrated due to colonialism. So, basically, to promote the African society, an African writer, should shed all the hangovers of colonialism that is in their head, enter into a post colonial and decolonized state of mind, and promote their native culture traditions and educate people to it, on how the colonial powers can be seductive, how to resist those powers, and how to inculcate the spirit of freedom, decolonization, post colonialism, and development of their country economically and socially. This is the duty of an African writer, according to Achebe, and this is how he ends this essay, Colonialist Criticism. Thank you. That's all for today, and we will study Edward Said in the next lecture, probably.